Hi, I'm Peter Orker of Peter Orker Piano Tuition, and welcome to Tuesday. It's a Tuesday tip for better piano playing, and today it's like a third video in a sort of series of three, which is looking at the concept of anticipation and preparation. So what is anticipation and preparation? Well, basically it's a principle, and the purpose is, where possible, to bring your fingers into a position over the notes that you want to play before you need to actually play them. This improves your accuracy and gives you the confidence to be as sure as you can be that you're going to hit the right notes, which is always a good thing. Now, in the previous two videos, we looked at the use of broken chord groupings. In video 1, I looked at a simple broken chord and showed how we can move a chord position up and down the keyboard and use that position to help us anticipate and prepare for the notes that we're going to play. In video 2, we looked at a real piece of music, the famous Bach Prelude in C major, this one. And so on. And we saw how that also is a series of broken chords, and that allows you to get your fingers in the correct positions before you actually play the individual notes, thinking of the notes not just as a sort of a series of linear events, but groupings of notes which you then break up and play separately. Well, this week we're going to look at the question of what do you do if the piece of music you're playing doesn't have a broken chord or an easy broken chord figuration that you can identify and find the groups of notes to place your fingers over. What do we do? Well, we have to use a more mixed approach, and I'm going to, as an example, I'm going to use part of the third movement of Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata in C minor, which is a rondo. That means it has a little tune and then some episodes that go between the main tune. Okay, so I'm going to start off just by demonstrating the main tune. This is what we're dealing with. Well, that is a lot more going on in that music than our simple broken chord music. So let's break it down. This is what you need to do, is to break this down. And there are four main strategies that you can bring into play and combine in order to make the anticipation and preparation of the notes for this piece work in your favour. Okay, it's going to be your friend. So first of all, the first one is actually broken chords. Now, you might not have heard them in a very obvious way, but if we just take the left hand part, just pause there, though most of those are actually broken chord figurations. So we can do what we did with the Bach last week and just find those chord groupings and play them as chords like this. allows us to identify, just as we did with the Bach prelude, where those note groupings are, and if you like, as last week, you can grab a pencil and you can just draw your lines over those groups just so you can see where you're going to make those position changes in your left hand. So that's strategy 1, the broken chord strategy, which you're very familiar with by now. Strategy 2, if we look at the melodic side, so that's what the right hand plays, you can find groupings, even if they're not broken chord groupings, you can still find groupings where the notes lie under the fingers in a particular way. For instance, if you just take the first little phrase. Now that is all in, you could have your hand open and have the thumb on the G, second finger on the C, third finger on the D, fourth finger on the E flat, and fifth finger on the F. So just that one phrase can be incorporated in that one hand position. That means that your fingers, for the whole of that group of notes, are prepared over the notes before you need to play them, which is our basic principle of anticipation and preparation. And so on. And sometimes you can use a scale. I hope all you budding pianists do your scales and arpeggios, rather like the song in the Aristocats, Disney's Aristocats, Scales and Arpeggios. If you don't know that film, great movie, check it out and listen out for that song. It's a good teaching song, really. You should always do your scales and arpeggios. But there's this bit towards the end where it goes like this. So if you look at the right hand there, it's the scale of C minor. So as long as you've practiced your scale or melodic minor, then you've got this. That's all scale fingering. So that's another use of different note groupings. So not necessarily broken chord groupings, but scale groups as well are your friend. Because when I played that scale, my fingers become naturally prepared over the different notes before I need to play them. Strategy 3 is consistency of fingering. Now, simply this means is work out in advance which fingers are going to play which notes, using the principles of broken chord, figuration and scale groups and other types of groups of notes. Find groupings which allow you to have your fingers over the notes before you need to play them, and then write in pencil, write every single fingering in, unless it's really simple. Write them all in and be consistent. In other words, every single time you play the music, use the fingering that you have adopted for that passage. Now, it might not be the fingering that has been printed in by the editor. Most editions have, every now and then they have the odd finger put in. Not every single note, but you'll find some fingering printed in. By all means try it out, it's often fine. But sometimes it might not suit the shape of your hand or the way your fingers work comfortably. And it's always worth trying out different fingerings for passages. But once you've written in that fingering or tried it out and thought, yeah, I like the way that feels, it's comfortable to play, write them in, and then every single time you play that music, use that fingering. Consistency of fingering is really important, because that again gives you two things. Number one, the security that the fingers always know what they're doing, you know, and secondly, it means that the groupings of fingers are going to help you do that preparation and anticipation principle that we're talking about today. Now, support this fingering thing with plenty, and I mean plenty, of slow practice. Now, don't skimp this or skip this and try and run before you can walk sort of thing. Do lots and lots of slow practice. You're kind of teaching your fingers the notes, so it's really, really important. You have to be patient, so you might practice this passage and so on, and then till up to your speed. That doesn't happen straight away, so you need to practice those passages slowly, carefully, and be patient. Okay, so that's strategy 3. And the fourth strategy, which actually doesn't really occur that much in this particular passage, it does just over the page. Use rests to get your fingers into position for what comes after the rest. In other words, don't think of it as a rest. You know, you haven't got time to go off and make a cup of tea and have a biscuit. Sometimes it's only a few beats or less than a beat, whatever. But right over the page, when the first sort of episode of the piece starts, it does this. Okay, played that pretty terribly, but you get the idea. Now there's two places there where you can use this, using rests. First of all, it's not strictly speaking using rest, because you're using more pedal, because if you play that first chord, the next thing that happens in the right hand, you've got to get yourself there. So use the pedal, and while that chord is still sounding, you go on to the next, you move your fingers onto the next position. But in the left hand, I'll show you that again in a moment, but in the left hand it really is using rests. If I just do the left hand on its own, you'll hear what I mean. Don't know if you saw that, but I use that period of rest there. I don't keep my left hand down, left hand at the bottom of the keyboard. I use that time, that silent time, to move my hand up into position. So putting that together, we get this. So there you have it, 4 strategies: broken chord, figuration, find groupings of notes in the melody, possibly scale passages or other ways of grouping your fingers over groups of notes rather than individual notes, consistency of fingering, and slow practice to support that, and finally using rests in the music as places where you can move your fingers and hands into a new position so it's ready over the correct keys. Well, there you go, that's 3 short videos giving you just a taste, really, teaching you the basics of this quite important concept of anticipation and preparation of notes, which hopefully will make your playing fast, more secure, stronger, more confident and more accurate. I'll look forward to seeing you at the next Tuesday video, Tuesday tip. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. I hope you found some of that helpful. And if you did, then you might consider following me on YouTube, or my YouTube channel is just search Peter Orca Piano, or you might want to sign up to my Facebook page, Peter Orca Piano Tuition. Bye for now, and I'll see you next time.